What's up, Scyushi Squad? We back again for some more Trove, and today we're going to be doing the finale, kind of the 35k series, where we're going to be talking about the Boomeranger, our last physical character, I think. I'll have to double check my notes and see if there's a class that I missed, but with so many different characters, it's kind of difficult to keep track of them all. But a lot of you guys have been requesting this, and it's finally here. Is the Boomeranger going to be good for the end game? Well, we'll see about that. I do not have ideal gems just because I had to really, like, I spent so many class gem keys in order to end up getting myself a yellow class gem because I actually had a blue one for the longest time. We do have explosive epilogue, which is going to help us out just because we are going to be using the bow. Now, unfortunately, I only have a full crystal 3 set for my physical set. Yeah, that's a physical set. I just wanted to double check. We do got the attack speed on them, though. A little bit of movement speed on some of them. But hey, whatever. It's not going to make that much of a difference because Boomeranger is just kind of like, we're not going to end up doing as good as you think. So we're doing all right. I don't know why my light is so low. That doesn't make sense because these are all maxed out. And then... Anyways... I mean, I think it's just because the character itself doesn't scale as well as you would think. We don't need to have energy regen. I think I'm rocking an energy regen ring just because I don't have anything better. But basically what we're going to be doing in this series is we're going to spend 5 minutes doing dungeons, and then we're going to hop into the delves and just to see how good or bad this character is going to be for the end game. Chloromancer ended up recently getting a rework that is actually live in the game right now, making the Chloromancer one of the strongest characters in the game, actually, which is really cool. And then Boomeranger is still sitting here kind of at the bottom of the barrel. I would say the Boomeranger currently is probably one of the worst characters, but maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised with how we're going to end up handling the end game. The big reason why you want to use the bow is just because it's going to give you a lot more survivability. You do not have energy, so you don't need to worry about jumping, kind of similar to how the Dino Tamer works. But if you want to have more damage and be able to hit more enemies, obviously you're going to be building towards the sword and using your melee damage, just because the melee in the game is going to end up hitting a wider radius than the ranged characters basically are single target. You kind of hit like multiple enemies just because there's a small AoE effect around your bullets or your shots or whatever, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Anyways, let me get my timer ready, and while we're talking about that, I gotta let you guys know, if you're new to Trove, check that sign out link in the description. If you end up signing up for Trove with my sign up link, basically anything you buy out of the cash shop, I'll make a percentage of that sale. It's an awesome way you can support me by playing the game and stuff. Anyways, let's wrong mount, even though I really like that one. We're gonna end up bringing Gonda out, and let's go inside the dungeon and see just how we are going to end up doing as this character. So this would be a nice example to show that we cannot, like, we can barely use our main attack just because the amount of enemies that we're dealing with. However, if we throw down our Bach Bomb and throw down our enemies or our ultimate ability and stuff like that, we seem to be doing just fine, actually. What happens when I shoot a normal enemy? Ooh, only 8 mil. 8 mil a shot. Ooh. Especially coming right after the Fey Trickster tutorial. Oh, well, tutorial, if you even call it that. Coming right out of the Fey Trickster where we're doing 41 mil a shot, and now we're back down to doing 8. I mean, I guess granted, yeah, our bomb actually did 16 mil, and then our babies, how much damage are they doing? 15 mil each. So that's 15 mil times 3, so that's not too bad. Of course, the fact that we're reliant on our units is kind of like, like it's I don't know, it's hit or miss. I mean, if we end up using our ult and using all of our abilities, you can see we're doing much more damage, at least more than I thought we would. Like, I honestly thought that this was unplayable, but it seems to be fine. Because the thing is, like, I know that I'm dropping a lot of hate towards the Boomer. It's most of all just because of balancing issues. Excuse me, frog in my throat. Because personally speaking, I actually find the Boomeranger to be one of the funnest characters in the game. Like, there's just something about the character and the way that it plays and the movement of the character and everything. Like, especially the role is probably one of the funnest. Like, there's just something about the way that the character animates and everything that I find really appealing. It's just that, unfortunately, the damage and the abilities and stuff you can see just don't really end up equaling out. Like, I know that that doesn't really make that much sense, because I'm literally, like, you're probably sitting there like, what are you talking about? You're literally soloing U10 right now. Yes, I am. but that's just because I'm strong enough. The whole point is that if I was using another character, like if I took all of my physical gear and swapped it to, you know, Neon Ninja, for example, I would just be doing better because I would be faster at going to the next dungeon, and I would be faster at clearing the dungeon as well. Because the thing about the Boomer is that we are, you know, able to do enough damage if we end up using all of our abilities and so on and so forth. But the speed at which we end up completing these dungeons just doesn't really compare to other characters. Now, that said, I'm not going to act like I'm not pleasantly surprised, because I am pleasantly surprised. I thought Boomer was just unplayable. Like, seriously, I thought you just couldn't use it. I constantly talk about not using it, just in terms of grinding and stuff like that. And to be fair, when you're doing like anything other than up to this point, like, you know, when it comes to U10, we can end up easily outscaling it. The Delves is where it's going to end up being really, really hardcore comparison, where we'll be able to see, okay, how is this character going to end up working, if at all. And again, that said, if we end up using a melee weapon, let me actually see. Barb? Yeah, there we go. So let me actually swap over to our melee version right here. Okay. I gotta make sure I don't accidentally destroy that bow. Okay. Anyways, let's try out the melee mode now, just because you'll kind of see what I mean when I talk about like the... Okay, the damage is not as good as I thought it was. It's still doing more damage than our ranged, and the whole point is that we're attacking more than one enemy. So this will be probably a much better example when we're doing the kill 30 enemies. It becomes an absolute joke just because our spin attack has so much AoE to it, and the fact that we are doing enough damage to one-shot these guys. That's kind of what I figured. Because usually what people end up doing, or what people ended up doing, I should say, I gotta stop referring to these things as if they're still relevant, is what people used to do for the Boomer is you would basically use his melee mode for everything, and then like just for normal grinding and stuff, and then when you ended up going into Shadow Towers or somewhere that was a little bit more end game and required, you know, more survivability. What was that? Geez, that hit detection. You would end up swapping over to the ranged mode, obviously, because that would end up just giving you much more survivability, because of course you then didn't have to deal with you know, our energy, and obviously you could just stay in the air. And now if you're dealing with ranged enemies, I mean, that's where it's going to end up becoming a bit of a problem, but hey, whatever. So anyways, perfectly works. Still not as good as other characters. I mean, that's just in terms of U10. So let's swap over to the Delves and probably get our butt kicked. All right, so this is going to end up being depth 122. So this should be okay. The normal enemies, it shouldn't be as much of a problem. We're going to attempt using melee and see how that works out. Of course, again, I want to reiterate, what the heck are these doing here? I didn't plant these. If you are going to want to have survivability, you're going to... Since when do these just spawn out randomly? Like, what the heck? You're going to want to use your ranged. I don't want to just keep repeating myself, okay? But I keep doing it. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit scatterbrained when it comes to this kind of thing. Well, when it comes to... Just lately, I'm very distracted, okay? I'm busy doing lots of real-life stuff, okay? Shush. Anyways, as far as doing the, you know, defeating these enemies and stuff, not bad, not great. I could be using any other character and probably just do a lot better. I have never seen this generation before where it actually has the little things on the ground. That's interesting. Do these little guys count? No, only the big robots count, not the little mushroom men or whatever. But yeah, in terms of just grinding through and defeating all these enemies, I mean, we'll be okay just because this is U10 difficulty, but it's not really much higher than that. One thing that I've noticed through doing these 35k videos is usually around depth 128 is when you really have to be using like a proper end game character, like one of the classes that can actually handle the end game, because the Delves just scales so much more just out of nowhere. The jump between 127 and 128 for some reason is really high. Like, I don't know why. Maybe that's when the difficulty ends up scaling up to U11 difficulty technically. I'm not exactly sure. because I don't really do the delves as much as you would think. Most of all, I just do delves until they become impossible for me to solo, and then I would end up just leaving and then repeating it. And even then, I don't really do that as much anymore, just because I find the delves to be so astronomically boring. I gotta be honest, like seriously. That's the thing though, is I'm still pleasantly surprised that you can do this with Boomer. Obviously, it's not going to do as well as using any of the other characters. Like, physical characters in general just don't end up being that great when it comes to delves. So usually I would recommend that you have one of your magic characters built up for the delves. Even then, you know, you gotta build one up that's got the damage and it's got the survivability, but that's also because most of the time I end up doing my stuff solo. In terms of just doing this delve though with Boomer, I mean, it's a tough call. I would still recommend that you probably want to end up swapping your gear to Neon Ninja, even if just to have the movement speed to get to the end, you know, never mind like trying to actually clear enemies and stuff, because we end up having like one ice sage at the same power rank. You're going to be one-shotting all of these enemies rather than what Boomer's doing where we're struggling. Now we're going to attempt fighting this boss. Hopefully we have enough damage output to do it melee mode. Yeah, it seems like we'd be okay. But I want to swap to range just so I can show you guys what I mean when I talk about the survivability. So obviously if we are not dealing with a ranged enemy, we can literally just do this and it basically makes us invincible. I mean, if you are dealing with a ranged enemy, you can kind of hop back and forth to kind of deke and dodge their abilities, but it's going to end up being kind of tricky. I like how our little rabbit babies aren't always attacking this guy. Like, what the heck, dude? It's so weird. But yeah, if we end up, I'm gonna swap back to melee just because the amount of damage that we're doing is all right. I don't know if we'll have enough survivability. Like, are we outputting enough damage that we're going to end up being able to defeat this guy before our flasks end up being fully taken? Yeah, it seems like we might. I just gotta actually press all of my buttons consistently because I keep on getting my recovery speed, like for my boomerang, and I keep not using it. So yeah, I would basically just be spamming all my abilities over and over, I guess, to have the most highest output damage possible. And of course, because he's constantly tagging me and basically like one or two shotting me, it's making it so that my Marshall is triggering, and that's in turn making my little babies end up doing a lot more damage, because that's where most of our damage is coming from, is them, not necessarily just our character solo itself. But again, that was a little bit too close for my liking in terms of just getting through the delves. It's entirely possible to use this character for sure, but are you gonna, you know, like, it's like I don't even know. Like, I mean, I guess even Candy Bar might be better than Boomeranger. I don't know, dude. That's such a tough call. It sucks though, because I love the Boomeranger. Like, he's such a fun character, you know, and has some of the best costumes in the game. The style is just great because it's obviously a throwback to both a combination of Mario and Zelda and Link, you know, from Zelda. So it's kind of like a Nintendo character in the game, right? And who doesn't love Nintendo? But anyways, that's my 2 cents towards it. Can you main it? Yeah, you can. You're not gonna end up doing as good as some other characters though, so it's entirely up to you guys. You know, that's the thing, is I most of all have these videos, like the 35k series, I most of all wanted to start just to show you guys, okay, this is what these characters can end up having as their full potential, and it's up to your own discretion of whether or not you think this character is worth maining or not. You definitely can, but the thing is with the Boomer, you got to consider I have really, really high stats. Like, I'm pretty much maxed out for almost any of the characters that I have. Obviously, I'm not at 36k, and I don't have the, you know, the permanent torch that you can get from Leviathans or anything like that, which obviously would make it even stronger. But this is kind of like fully maxed out gems, fully maxed out crystal gear, whether it be crystal 3 or crystal 4, which there's not that much of a difference between crystal 3 and 4 as you would think. But I don't mean to ramble. I'm just trying to make a point that this is entirely possible. I guess. I don't know. What do you guys think? You think Boomer's good or not? I don't know. Anyways, next video will probably end up being some stuff focusing on the Chloromancer, because otherwise that pretty much does it for our 35k series. So I want to say a big shout out and thanks to you guys for watching these videos, just because it seems like we ended up generating a lot of interest on the 35k series. I've seen a lot of you guys asking whether or not I could end up doing a 25k series, which is kind of difficult. Like how, like the thing is, you guys sometimes will end up having very, very specific questions for me. Like, oh, can you show me this character with these stats? And it's like, no, I can't. Like, that's the thing is, all I could really do to end up bringing my power rank down would be to have less optimal gems, in which case the play style of the character and the damage output of the character is still going to be very similar to what you're seeing in the 35k series. It's just going to be scaled down. So I personally don't really feel much of a reason to make a video like that. But I mean, there's still a big list of other things that I can end up doing on the channel, and it's, I don't know. Anyways, I don't mean to ramble because I know that this is a 35k series of the Boomer and I want to keep this focused. So thanks for watching. Smash like, sub for more. Buy the merch you want to support the series, channel, I mean. And have yourselves a fantastic day. Sign on and stay epic, everybody.